Welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you guys are new here, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. I would like to give a special thanks to Lorenzo Ford for providing with the Ford Expedition. If you're in the market for a Ford, you can come check out Lorenzo Ford and ask for Gene. He will get you into a new or pre-owned vehicle. But let's talk about the front styling here of the Ford Expedition here. Looking at the front styling, I think this vehicle looks very aggressive. It does have this large boxy shape to it. Looking at these headlights here, you get full LED headlights. Here, looking at these headlights, there's also an automatic low and high beam with an LED turn signal with this C-shaped daytime running light. There's also fog lights here at the lower part of the fascia, which are full LEDs. There's some chrome accents here, and Ford calls this exterior paint here an iconic silver. It looks really good with the chrome accents. I love the way the grille looks. I love the pattern. There's also that large Ford emblem there with a front-facing camera. Since my model is the limited model here of the Expedition, looking at the side profile, the wheelbase here is at 122.5 inches with an overall length of 210. So this is right on par with something like a Chevy Tahoe and also a GMC Yukon and a Lincoln Navigator. If you guys want something bigger, Ford will sell you an Expedition Max, so you get more cargo space and also more legroom if you guys want something bigger compared to this Expedition here. But looking at these tires and wheels here, these are a 285/45 tire. They're wrapped in this 22-inch rim design. I love the rim design. It looks really good with the silver with the gray insert. My model also has running boards here. This is LED side marker here on the mirror cap, and up top there's this large panoramic sunroof here with these roof rails, so you guys can tie some things up top of the Expedition. But making our way to the rear here of the Expedition, looking at these taillights here, they're a full LED design with the LED turn signal, brake light, and reverse light. There's a limited badge here to signify the trim level that you have. There's the Ford and the Expedition badge there. There's this rear wiper here to keep the rear glass clean. And you can open up this glass here just in case you guys want to open up the actual tailgate here so you can drop items in the actual cargo space back there. Looking down here is going to be rear parking sensors. You can also remove this plastic piece here, and Ford says you can tow up to 6,000 pounds here with this Expedition. If you guys go for the tow package, you can tow between 9,000 to 10,000 pounds, which is best in class. It's for the body-on-frame SUVs here. But open up the cargo back here. It does have a power opening tailgate. Once you open up the cargo back here, it reveals 20.9 cubic feet of space here. And to fold down the third row, Ford makes it pretty simple. Just press this button here, and the seats will fold down. Once it folds down, it expands the cargo to 63.6 cubic feet of space. And to fold down the second row here, press this button here, the seats will fold down. It expands the cargo to 104.6 cubic feet of space. If you guys go for the max version, you have around 121.5 cubic feet of space. So if you guys are looking for a lot of cubic feet of space, be sure to check out the Expedition Max. And there's also some underfloor storage here, which is very shallow. But overall, let's hop into the interior of the Ford Expedition. Sitting inside the interior of the Ford Expedition limited trim here, looking at this interior here, unfortunately Ford did not update the interior for the 21 model year. This is still an 8-inch display, but it does support Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. For 2022, Ford is updating the Expedition. They changed the exterior styling a little bit for the refresh model year, and also they're giving it a large 15.5-inch display, just like on the Ford Mustang Mach-E. As you guys can hear that traditional Ford chime, but reaching over here to shut the door of the Expedition here, the door sounds pretty solid. Then push button start is right here behind the steering wheel. Once you start the vehicle up, you guys can hear that twin turbo V6 come to life. But looking at the door panel materials, it's gonna be a nice leather material. There's some nice stitching here. There's also a 3-person memory seat with your lock controls here. It is auto up, auto down for all 4 windows. You can also power fold the mirrors in via this button here. As you guys can see, the mirrors will power fold in and out. So if you guys want a tight area, you don't want to take off your mirrors, I would advise folding them in. Looking here at this armrest here, it's going to be nice and padded. This is wood trim here on the actual door panel. Just like on the Ford F-150, this does have a unique door handle, which is pretty nice. This also has the B&O sound system. It's a 12 speaker, which sounds pretty good. And looking right here is going to be additional cup holder and storage space there. We're shutting the door again. You can also fold down the headrest in the third row. There's also the trunk release button here. There's the headlight controls with the dimmer switch, and also for the fog light button there. There's electronic parking brake, and you can adjust the pedals via this button here. So if you're short like myself, you can bring the pedals towards you or far away from you if you're tall. And looking here at the gauge cluster here, this does have a partial digital display, but there is analog gauges. There's an analog for the RPM, also for the speed, and you can customize this display here front and center via this pad here, or this control here. It does show you your towing status, your vehicle information. It does show you your trip and fuel. There also my view, so you can customize the screen to your liking. The steering wheel does feel nice and chunky to hold. There's a Ford emblem here on the airbag cover. There's the volume controls here with the voice controls. This also has adaptive cruise control. Looking at the materials on the dashboard, it's gonna be a nice leather material with nice stitching. There's some storage space here. There's the stability control, the hazard switch, the lane keep and assist, also with the automatic start stop. You can access the cameras via this button here. Like I mentioned, this is an 8-inch display. As you guys can see, it does support Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Going here to the Ford head unit, this is the Sync 3 system. This is not the Sync 4. Like I mentioned, Ford is updating the Expedition for the 2022 model year. So you're gonna have the Sync 4, so you can have over-the-air updates. Ford will send an update to basically fix that issue. But going back to the Apple CarPlay, as you guys can see, the screen is very bright and very crisp. I love these large air vents here to have the air flow throughout the cabin. Looking here, there's some shortcut buttons here for the sync and track. Also, you can turn the screen off via this button here or have it in a calm setting. There's these big knobs here for the volume and tune. Looking down here, this does have dual climate control here in the front. There's also 3-level heated and cooled seats. There's a fan speed there. Looking down here, there's a wireless phone charger. My iPhone 12 Pro Max does fit in there. There's a USB port with a Type-C. I love the wood trim here in the center console, even on the door panel, which looks really nice. But putting the Expedition to reverse here, there's this rotary knob here. You guys are greeted by this top-down 360 view. There's also a trajectory with distance markers, which is really nice. The resolution here of the camera is really good. Switching over here to drive, which is very simple. And there's also a manual mode, but there is no paddle shifters on back of the steering wheel. You have to basically use this button here. There's also 10 different gears to go through. So if you guys basically want to shift your gears, you have to basically press this button here, put the vehicle back into park. And looking here, this is the drive mode selector. Once you press it, it does show you normal, snow and wet, tow haul mode. There's a sport mode, also eco. So there's 5 different drive modes here in the Expedition. And this is a little storage compartment here where you can probably put the key. I'm sure you guys the key fob. This is the traditional Ford key. There is a lock, unlock, a remote start, a trunk release, also a panic button. But looking at the back of the key fob, there is the Ford emblem on the back of the key. But Ford did not update the key fob. There's a parallel and perpendicular parking system here. There's also the parking sensor. There's some chrome accents here in the center console. This area here is going to be nice and padded. So if you guys have larger knees and whatnot, it won't basically hurt once you hit this because it's padded here. There's some nice stitching here. There's also additional storage space down there. Open up this. It does reveal a massive amount of storage in here. You can remove this tray as well. Nice stitching. Is going to be padded here, so very comfortable place to rest your elbows on a long road trip. Above me, there is this large panoramic sunroof, but it does not go into the actual 3rd row. If you guys want that 3rd row thing, you have to look at the BMW X7, which is way more expensive compared to this Expedition here. But the seats in here, they're supportive, they're comfortable, they're for a wider frame person. They're 3-level heated and cooled seats. Looking at the materials on the dash, like I mentioned, very nice materials, also with nice stitching there. There's more chrome accents here on the dash. Once you press this, it does reveal a decent amount of storage in there. So there's a 2-tier storage. Open up this area, it's pretty decent as well with a shelf there so you can put more items in there. There's also a 12-volt here. But overall, I'm super impressed with this interior, but like I mentioned, Ford is going to be updating the Expedition. So if you guys are waiting for that, you have to wait a few more months until Ford brings them to the dealer lot. But overall, let's hop into the 2nd and 3rd row of the Ford Expedition. Getting into the 2nd and 3rd row of the Ford Expedition here, open up the door. As you guys can see here, the door opens nice and wide, so you can't access the 2nd and 3rd row. But getting back here, our model does have these running boards here with this grab handle. So if you're short like myself, you can't get into this big old SUV here. As you guys can see, I do have a lot of headroom here, even with this panoramic sunroof cutout. Very large panoramic sunroof, but it does not go into the actual 3rd row. Looking down here, Ford says you're getting around 41.5 inches of legroom. There's 2 map pockets back here for storage. There's also 2 cup holders here for the rear passengers. There's this digital display here that you can adjust the media, the volume, the clock. And you can basically change the volume and stuff from back here. So just in case you guys don't like the song that the driver or passenger is playing, you can change it here. Open up this, it does reveal the USB ports, which is a Type-C, also with a traditional USB. There's these big knobs here for the climate controls back here. There's 2-level heated seats. Some other competitors do offer cool seats. There's also a household outlet here. The floor back here is nice and flat. You can access the 3rd row via this aisleway here. The seats in here, they're supportive, they're comfortable. Very large armrests. This is one of the largest armrests that I've seen in the segment here. It does fit my large elbows just fine. But looking up here, like I mentioned, very large panoramic sunroof, but it does not go into the actual 3rd row. The materials on the door here, just like in the front, nice high quality leather with stitching. There's more of that nice wood trim. And like I mentioned, very unique door handles here. There's also additional storage, cup holder space. But let's get into the third row really quickly here. Ford makes it pretty simple. You can grab this handle here. The seat will tilt forward, but you just have to have a little bit of man strength to push the seat forward. As you guys can see, very large aisleway to get into the third row here. But getting back here really quick, I'm gonna sit behind this seat here. This is what the seat, as far as setting, as you guys can see, hopefully you guys can see it, but I do have plenty of space to sit back here. Like I mentioned, there's no sunroof back here, but there is air vents up top to let the air come back here to the third row. There's also LED lights throughout the cabin. The seats back here feel very plush and very comfortable, and you can recline the seat. No other competitor in the segment besides the Toyota Sequoia offers that recline function. But as you guys can see, I do have plenty of foot space underneath this seat here, but you can ask the passenger here to move the seat a little bit forward. And Ford says you get around 40.5 inches of legroom back here in the third row. Well, overall, there's plenty of space back here in the second and third row of the Ford Expedition. Let's talk about the powertrain specs here for the Ford Expedition. This does have Ford's 3.5 liter EcoBoost here. This makes 375 horsepower and 470 pound-feet of torque. This is paired with a 10-speed automatic transmission developed by Ford and GM. Fuel economy here for this V6 is rated at 17 in the city, 23 on the highway, and 19 combined. This can tow up to 6,000 pounds. If you guys go for a tow package, Ford says this can tow up to 10,000 pounds, which is best in class. And as the Expedition sits here, it weighs around 5,400 pounds. So starting off in the Ford Expedition here, keep in mind guys, like I mentioned, Ford will sell you a larger version of the Expedition. You can get the Max, which that has more cargo. You have around 121.5 cubic feet of space. So if you guys are looking for more space, I would recommend going for the Max instead of the short wheelbase here. This has around 104.6 cubic feet of space. So if cargo is your thing, I would just recommend just going for the Max. This does have Ford's 3.5 liter EcoBoost powertrain here. This is hooked up to a 10-speed automatic transmission, which Ford and GM, they co-developed the transmission together, which is a really good transmission. I tested in some of the GM products, also with the newest Ford F-150, which that powertrain is just super impressive. That does have the Power Boost, which is one of my favorite powertrains in the segment out of the half-ton trucks. But this V6 here, it gets up to speed really quickly. You feel the torque around 2,000 or around 2,300 RPM, and makes 470 pound-feet of torque. So the torque number is very rich and very low. This makes 375 horsepower. So this vehicle will get out of its own way, and it weighs around 5,400 pounds. So this thing is pretty impressive when it comes to horsepower and torque numbers, even though it's not a V8. So keep in mind, Ford does not put V8s in their particular full-size SUVs here. So if you guys want a V8, you have to look at the other competitors in this segment, like the Chevy Tahoe, the GMC Yukon, Suburban, and all those others. But the V6 here is not a bad powertrain. It's really fuel efficient compared to those V8s. This gets around 17 in the city, 23 on the highway, and 19 combined. So really good fuel economy. But keep in mind, Ford only offers one powertrain, which is this V6. But they do have a high-powered version of this, which makes 400 horsepower and 480 pound-feet of torque. So if you guys want that powertrain, you have to look at the Platinum or the King Ranch to get that 400 horsepower and 480 pound-feet of torque. But the 375 is really good as well. The visibility out of the Expedition here is really good. You have a good commanding view of the road. The seats in here, they're very comfortable, they're very supportive. They're 3-level heated and cooled seats, which honestly, they feel good once you have the cool seats on. And the turning radius in this vehicle is really good because, like I mentioned, this is a short wheelbase. Me personally, since I like longer vehicles, I would just go for the Expedition Max because you get more cargo space, but you do have the same amount of legroom still, even if you go for the long wheelbase version of the Expedition. But the ride quality here is really good. Let's talk about the driver's assistance. This does have lane keep assist with blind spot monitoring, forward collision warning. So this does have Ford's driver's assistance, which is really good. I tested it out before. And like I mentioned from the inside scene, Ford is going to be updating the Expedition for the 2022 model year. So they're going to have a larger infotainment system, which is the same infotainment system that's in the Ford, I can't think of the name, is in the Ford Mustang Mach-E, which I seen that infotainment system. That thing is freaking large. So imagine that in here, which is going to be bigger. It's going to be best in class when it comes to screen wise, because the other competitors offer around a 10-inch or even 12-inch. So Ford's going to be best in class when it comes to that. And this vehicle here, this one can tow up to 6,000 pounds. If you guys go for the tow package, you can tow up to 9,000 to 10,000 pounds. So that's still best in class compared to the other competitors in this segment. But overall, the ride quality in here is super good. This does have a independent rear suspension. Just like finally the GM twins finally got the independent rear suspension. Ford was the first one, if I'm not mistaken, to introduce the independent rear suspension on their full-size body-on-frame SUVs. So now finally the other competitors are now finally catching up to Ford. So Ford's light years ahead of the competitors in the segment. But for this model year, they didn't do too much with changes. But let's test the turning radius here and see. Most likely I'm gonna have to back up. Not necessarily. Pretty decent turning radius. I think the other competitors, you might have to basically reverse, but if you guys are looking to do tight maneuvers, this vehicle could do the tight maneuvers. This is right on par when it comes to size-wise, just like the GMC Yukon, the Chevy Tahoe. You get best-in-class towing, best-in-class fuel economy. If you guys don't go for the diesel powertrains and the other competitors, but this one does get best-in-class when it comes to fuel economy. Starting price here for the Ford Expedition Limited is at $62,175 with the options and accessories including destination. The Ford Expedition Limited here stickers for $68,610. Hope you guys have enjoyed this review here. Be sure to follow me on Instagram at Drive On Reviews and hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you all in the next review.